Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In this video, I'm going to be discussing exactly what and how much I currently have stockpiled for 9.2. Now, if you are new to this channel, or you have recently returned, this is kind of, I guess, part 3 in my 9.2 series, which I did not really know that I was making a series until now, so if you are interested in my thoughts on legendaries and best in slots and stuff like that, I highly recommend checking out the video that was posted 2 videos before this. And of course, if you guys are looking into non-legendary markets, all of the non-legendary consumables, stuff like that, I highly recommend checking out the video that was posted right before this. But of course, without further ado, we will be discussing exactly what I'm stockpiling and what my plans are, and this will probably be the last 9.2 video for a while. After this video is over, I have pretty much just covered everything that I think people need to know about 9.2. The only exception to this is, of course, if we get a load of new information or any really big game changers, then of course I will post about it. But besides that, of course, we'll pretty much be done talking about 9.2. But without further ado, we are going to get right into this video. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe to see more. And of course, if you want to be a part of our community, feel free to join the Discord down below. But here is the discussion. Now, before I'm getting into exactly what and how much I'm stockpiling, I need to put a little disclaimer. And the thing is that you should not pay attention to how much I am stockpiling. You should really just pay attention to what I am stockpiling. The reason for this is, as many of you know, I play on a medium pop server. If you would like to compare your server to mine, I use Raider.io to find my realm's estimated population, and Raider.io says it's about 40,000. So, compared to the highest populated realm in North America, that's sitting at about 215,000, my server is only at 40,000. And before we get into exactly what I'm stockpiling, I will show you a very big example right now. So right here on the left side of the screen, you will see my main server's mailbox, and on the right, or auction house, and on the right side of the screen, you will see a full population's auction house. Now, both servers I play on, of course, my main server is the smaller one, and I have started on this very, very full pop about a month ago. Now, just right off the bat, you guys can probably tell by the Quartzite crystal amount that things are way different. Currently, on my medium pop, there are 900 Quartzite crystals, which is actually quite a lot. And currently, on the other realm, there is about over 5,000 Quartzite crystals. So right there is just a huge difference in the terms of the amount of materials that are on the realm, the amount that I am able to purchase, and also the amount that I go through daily. If we want to look at other things, if I scroll down, as you can see, we can look at, let's say we want to look at Desolate Leather. Currently, there is about 9,000 Desolate Leather available on my realm. And taking a look at the full pop, as you can see, there is over 550,000. So things are quite different. Taking a look to something that's a little bit closer, we could say, there is about 70,000 shrouded cloth on my current server, which is actually a huge amount, compared to the full pop, which is sitting at about 300,000. So just right off the bat, now of course, there is like 70,000 shrouded cloth is quite a lot on my server. The next most thing it seems that we have is Widow Bloom going at about 32,000, while there's 100 and almost 30,000 on the other server. So I just wanted to put this into perspective to hopefully give you a better idea of just the different populations. So why I want to show you this is because the amount that I have stockpiled will probably, for most of you, seem very, very weak, but that is just simply because my realm does not go through as much materials because there's not as much sales, and of course, there's not as much materials on the auction house. So Whenever I have 40,000 of something stockpiled, that is quite a bit for me. However, that is probably, a few days worth for you. So just keeping that in mind, of course, if you don't have a ton of gold, then some of these numbers might seem very big to you. And of course, if you are an avid legendary seller, then a lot of this will probably look weak. But that is the disclaimer that I do want to put on this video. And now we're going to get into the actual stockpile. So the biggest thing I would say that I am stockpiling and basic is cloth. So if we highlight over here right now, I currently have about 104,000 shrouded cloth currently stockpiled, and I am basically just buying as much as possible, and that really just relates to any of these materials. Now the reason I am buying cloth is of course for all of the cloth legendaries, and also for the new crafted gear. Of course, we're getting the new crafters marks in 9.2, so I'm making sure I have plenty to craft legendaries, as well as make those new crafters marks and create the gear needed for them. Now, I have about 100,000 currently stocked up, which will last me a pretty good amount of time. In retrospect, if you look from the start of Shadowlands, which the start of Shadowlands was like November 2020, so it's been over a year. As you can see, I have only purchased about 550,000. So, of course, compare that to your number, and that's probably quite low for most full pop servers, but I have about a fifth of my total purchased at the moment stocked up, and that's a pretty good amount. Going over to lightless silk, sadly, I do not have much actually stocked up. I only have about 14,000. However, I'm hoping that that increases greatly whenever more becomes available. Currently, there's only about 6,000 on the auction house, and the price isn't super good. However, I will probably end up buying this, but I only have about 15,000, but it's growing. The bad thing is that I am still actively selling legendaries, so, my stock depletes a ton. So it's kind of hard maintaining that lightless silk. That is basically it for cloth. That's really the only two major items for cloth legendaries, and I primarily am probably focusing on that shrouded cloth. Moving on, one of the bigger items that I am avidly stockpiling is green ore. So what this means is oxen, phaedrum, selenium, as well as silver. And as you can see right now, I have about 36,000 oxen. I have about 12,000 phaedrum, I have about 40,000 selenium, and I only have about 7,000 silver. The reason for that is I have recently spent a ton of my silver, and I'm waiting for the price to go back down in order to buy it cheap, just like that. Now, the reason why I am purchasing this ore, I have kind of talked about it in the past, but the main reason is because these ores, as well as the herbs, which we'll talk about in just a second, are zone specific. What this means is that oxen is only found in one of the 4 zones, so Ardenweald, Bastion, Ravendreth, or Maldraxxus, and each ore has its respected zone. That means, generally in 9.2, a lot of the gatherers and of course all current content players are going to flock to the new zone in 9.2, Zereth Mortis, and do a ton of gathering there to get the hyped new materials, and there will not be a ton of people in these older zones. That means less people being able to gather, and it's going to end up, possibly limiting our supply, or at least showing less available. So, of course, these green ores are awesome for Shadowghast ingots, which are needed for jewelry crafting and blacksmithing. They're also good for prospecting for essences. So I have been heavily buying these materials whenever they get cheap. Now, of course, once again, limited by quantity, but I am highly focusing on these. Then, in the same kind of narrative of that, I am also stockpiling herbs. Now, granted, I have recently just been buying them, so they haven't been the best stockpile, but I have about 10,000 of each. Some of them less than others as I spent them, but I'm gaining or looking to buy a ton more. Same reasoning as in they are zone specific, and the only new potion that we are getting is a healing potion, so stockpiling these herbs can be awesome for potion makers or the people who want to try to at least resell them. Moving on, now we have leather. Now leather I always buy, and right now on my realm I'm sadly having a callous hide crisis. That's at least what I like to call it. So sadly, the only type of leather stockpiling I have been doing is basically pallid bones and desolate leather. Currently, I have about 109,000 desolate leather, which is quite a ton for my server. I'm very happy with that. And I have about 31,000 pallid bones, which is a pretty good number as well. As you can see, my smart average buy price is only about 1 gold, which is awesome. So I'm definitely picking up these very cheaply. Now, like I said before, right now there is kind of a callous crisis at the moment. If we want to look for it on the auction house, well, of course, it's heavily reset at the moment. Market value is about 30,000, and my smart average buy price is about 26,000. And currently, I only have 2,000 to my name. So, as you can see, there's only 300 available on the auction house right now. Somebody must have bought a lot of the expensive stuff, but Callus is just not doing too hot at the moment. Continuing with heavy Callus, I only have 98. You know, the buyout is pretty high. I mean, it's kind of around my smart average buy, and there's only about 300 on the auction house. And then, you know, it just keeps getting worse and worse. So, yeah. So, my plan is to stockpile Callus if I am available to, but right now, there is kind of the Callus crisis going on, so hopefully that changes in a little bit. Now, in terms of the mainstream stockpiling, I guess that is pretty much what everybody would be thinking of doing. These are all the main materials needed for legendaries, needed for potions, all of that. And so it makes sense to stockpile these. Now, some things that I'm starting to stockpile on the side is also cooking supplies. So mainly fish, and the meat is also not doing super well on my server, but every single chance I get to buy it cheap, I will. So the reason why I'm buying fish, as you can see, once again, not a ton, but I have about 3,000 of the amberjack purchased, which is quite a lot for my server. And this is simply for just the new feast and just cooking in general. If you guys do not know, the new feast requires players to actually put meat and fish into it in order to activate it. And I personally don't think that feast will be super popular, but some people may want to try it out. So, you know, people are going to need more demand for these items. And of course, if that feast does not ultimately work out, they will still resort to the old feast, which once again needs fish and meat. And all of the other large meals will also go up in demand, just with general rating and mythic pluses and PvP popular again. So I have a pretty good stack of amberjack. I have lots of chicken wings, which might not be the greatest investment. However, I've had them for quite a while. I am keeping an eye on both the ribs and the crawler meat, and just really all of the fish in general. The thad is also some I'm buying. I have about 2,000. I will probably end up picking up more, which I'll probably buy about 2,000 right now. And this just same goes with everything. If you guys have cooking, you know, any of these resources right here, the piranha, the pike, the ribs, and the haunch, and the thad, will probably see an increase. And of course, these 4 items right here. You got the ribs and the crawler meat, the shank and the wing, the soul amberjack, as well as the piranha and the amberjack once again. So, yes, practically all I'm saying is that every Shadowlands item will be awesome. Moving on, I am also stockpiling a good amount of gems. Now, right here, I am actively selling clusters, and the reason for that is just, you know, they are a nice side hustle that I can sell. Primarily, the best ones are the versatility and the quick. As you guys can see, the other 2 clusters are pretty low in price right now, and actually, this cluster is below vendor price. But I have been storing some of these gems just because possibly an increased in need. They sell generally well on my server no matter what, and they are a side product of me prospecting, so might as well give them a chance. Worst comes to worst, I just vendor them later, and I didn't really lose any gold. So depending on your server, you may want to look into this and possibly stockpile, but it's ultimately up to you. Now, in terms of everything else, there's nothing super big that crosses my eye. Of course, I am also stockpiling lacestrate ore. I only have about 20,000. Also, I am stockpiling shaded stone because I actively sell the sharpening stones. So I have about 30,000 of the shaded stone, and I would stock Death Blossom if I could. However, my server is pretty bad at the moment, and every amount that I buy, like I have 13,000 right now, all of that is about to be milled after this video, created into inks, and going to be actively sold as missives. So I would stockpile it if I could, but I just end up running out before I buy more. Elysium, once again, there's not a ton on my server. I have about 6,000 right now. However, a lot of it's going to be prospected and turned into enchanted Elysium. So of course, I will buy as long as it's cheap, but I just don't personally have a big stockpile at the moment. Now, of course, not everybody is going to be stockpiling the same things. Plenty of you are probably stockpiling something quite different. However, hopefully this gives you an idea and kind of my thought process behind what my goals are. The fact that if I can actually achieve them is a little bit different, but this is my reasoning behind everything that I want to do. Now, I will say, I feel like the biggest question that I get is also, what is a good buy price? And that is up to you. Generally, I always stick around my smart average buy price, and the reason for that is I never really buy anything that seems expensive to me. So if we go back down here, let's look at Desolate Leather. As you can see, my smart average buy is about 3.2 gold. So in my mind, I've kind of deemed that as the sweet spot. As you can see, the market value is 4 gold, and that will basically be the trend, at least from my smart average buy prices. My average buy is generally a little bit lower than market value. So if I ever see Desolate Leather at this, around 3.2, 3.4 gold, I will probably snatch it up. That's kind of what happened to Pallid Bones. Market value has kind of risen since then, but my smart average buy is simply 1 gold. And I use this trend with everything. Of course, Shrouded Cloth, there's not much of a movement. My market value is about 1.5, and my smart buy is about 1.3. So ultimately, this comes down to personal preference and just your server's market. The biggest thing I can say, for example, Lightless Silk, as you can see, the region sale average is 17 gold, but my smart buy price is about 23 gold, and that's actually above market value right now. But, there would be no way for me to buy this at 17 gold. On the server that I showed at the beginning of this video, I believe market value is like 13 gold. So if I were to tell you, oh yeah, I buy everything 23 gold and under, but you were on that super full pop server, that doesn't make sense, because that's basically saying that you should buy this whole market out. And of course, you probably shouldn't do that. So once again, it's up to you. Pay attention to your server. You will figure out how prices move and just find a nice balance. But this video was pretty simple. I just wanted to showcase exactly what I'm doing. Hopefully you guys have some ideas, and of course feel free to leave down below any non-Shadowlands items that you are stockpiling or anything like that. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to join the Discord down below if you'd like, and of course, have a good day.